What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, and it's not the doc. This is Tom Hanks from Castaway in the building today to talk a little Christian McCaffrey, because there's a lot of people that have questions here, Dr. Ethan, about CMC here this year. Is he going to return to some dominance? Should we be worried? That's who we're going to be talking about today. How are we doing there, Ethan?
Well, I'm offended first, but I'm all right. I'm good. I'm fine. It's cool. It's cool. It's a bad hair day. I'll admit it's a bad hair day. It's cool. It's fine.
Hey, as long as you got your notes in order for some Christian McCaffrey, I really don't think the people are going to care too much, because there's a lot riding on this guy this year, because he's right now still the overall average ADP of 1.01, the number one overall pick for most people, but we didn't get to see a whole lot of him in 2020. Are you nervous at all about Christian McCaffrey heading into the 2021 season?
I think that with how horribly 2020 went, I think you do have to have like just a hint of concern. The problem is that this year, especially, none of the running backs, at least not at the very, very top, are like no-brainer picks. At least I don't feel like it. We've already talked about Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. Those were kind of the consensus, like, okay, if you get one of those two, like, you're set. And neither one of them really panned out last year. So with CMC, I can definitely see how some people are a little nervous about him heading into this season.
Now, as a refresher, what actually was CMC dealing with there in 2020?
Well, he kind of had a mixed bag of things. The big one, the one that I think is probably the most important, is the high ankle sprain. He was dealing with that for most of the year. That's the thing that put him on IR for 6 weeks. So, that's definitely the biggest concern. But then it was just kind of one thing after another. He had, he missed a few games here, missed a few games there, just from different things while he was trying to recover from that high ankle sprain. So high ankle sprains are not to be trifled with. I mean, they really are something that if you see them early in the year, you could pretty much lock that guy into a disappointing season.
Yeah, it just seems like something that lingers like a lot throughout the season. It's something that just never fully heals, or if it does, it takes 6-8 weeks for these guys to really get going again. But as we look at him here going into 2021, it's a completely different Panthers offense now, right? No more Teddy Bridgewater under center. Now it's Sam Darnold, and he's got Robbie Anderson. He's got DJ Moore. They just drafted Terrace Marshall Jr., so I think this could maybe be a positive for Christian McCaffrey, that he may not have to touch the ball 300 times. But maybe you're sitting there thinking, well, for fantasy football, that kind of sucks. Well, maybe he doesn't see the amount of volume, but the volume that he does get, he's more efficient with it because he's getting better quality carries in an offense that's a little bit more balanced. What do you think?
I think the offense is definitely going to improve this year. I think another year with Joe Brady kind of calling the shots, I do think that they're kind of building this offense the way that he wants it to look like. And we saw what a peak Joe Brady could do with an offensive scheme while he's at LSU. One of the things that's probably the most important for fantasy is seeing how he used the running backs. When Christian McCaffrey went down, Mike Davis slotted in, and Mike Davis, probably the waiver wire ad of the year last year.
He's got big quads.
But he is not Christian McCaffrey. He is not the pass catcher that Christian McCaffrey is. He's not the runner that Christian McCaffrey is. And so if we can expect that full-blown usage in the pass game to return, the games that Christian McCaffrey played last year, he got absolutely just hammered with targets, just targets out of the wazoo. And that really is what made Christian McCaffrey like the guy for fantasy football. The fact that he could give you all the rushing upside of, the elite rushers in the league, while also giving you 8 to 12 catches on any given week. There's just not that many guys out there that are giving you both. And so Christian McCaffrey, to me, is definitely a bounce back candidate this year. Of course, there's not really much worse that he can do than last year. Last year was kind of a train wreck. So,
yep, absolutely. When you go back and you look at the past couple years for McCaffrey before the 2020 season, you see big volume, right? He had 403 touches in 2019. Now, a lot of people are going to go say, hey, somebody with that amount of touches was bound to have an injury the following year. So maybe we look at this a little bit different, and he does regress a little bit as far as touches go. Well, just look at 2018, because he had 80 less touches, almost 80 less touches total that year, but still had almost 2,000 total yards, went over 100 receptions, had over 1,000 yards rushing, 13 touchdowns. I mean, even if he regresses to that point, I will gladly take that once again from Christian McCaffrey here this year.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is one of those guys that you can overthink drafting him and you can be discouraged, but if Christian McCaffrey hits and returns to what he was, I mean, you can't knock a guy for one season where, I mean, from week 2 on, he was hurt. If we did that with everybody, you just wouldn't have anybody that you could draft. I mean, there just wouldn't be that many guys available. So I think you have to bank on Christian McCaffrey returning to form. He is a workaholic. He's a gym rat. There's no reason to think that he won't be able to return to 100% from all the stuff that he dealt with last year. And if he pops and you skipped out and you went risk averse and passed on him and he blows up again, you're going to be kicking yourself. I mean, he's going to be a league winner to anyone who gets him after like the top 4 picks, I think.
Now, if it's you, Ethan, and you have the 1.01 and you're sitting there on the clock, is there anybody that you're thinking about other than Christian McCaffrey at that point, you personally?
It depends on the league format. If it's a super flex league, I might consider Patrick Mahomes there. But if we're talking just a redraft league without any super flex, I mean, I'm still probably taking Christian McCaffrey 101. I don't like to bet on outliers. And so to me, Christian McCaffrey's one season of not being healthy out of literally his entire career up to this point is not enough for me to justify, letting him fall past me at the 101. Like, I would rather lose with Christian McCaffrey than win a few games and lose to somebody that took him later. I mean, that's just, to me, I think you're just asking to have your feelings hurt at the end of the season if you pass on him.
Right. And when you look at who's number 2 in the ADP right now, it's Dalvin Cook. I mean, we were having these same conversations about Dalvin Cook a couple years ago after his ACL tear and his issues and his hamstring issues starting that following year. And look what has happened with Dalvin Cook. He has absolutely exploded into a fantasy monster. You don't want to really miss out on something like that type of bounce back with a Christian McCaffrey here this year just because you're worried about the one injury. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey is definitely somebody who, if it's me personally, if I'm on the clock at 1.01, I'm probably not because I didn't finish last in any league, just so you know. I'm taking Christian McCaffrey. I can only say that to you, Ethan, because when it came down to our Dynasty League, I beat you in the playoffs. And I just want to continue to remind people that happened. Like, that was a thing. I know that you have tried to forget about it. Do you still have it? You still have it by your desk. You do. See, this is what happens. I mean, we made a bet last year during the playoffs. I beat it. Ethan had to wear that for the entire show. If you missed out on that, you got to go back and watch some older videos. That was fun. We had a good time with that one. You maybe not so much. I had a great time with it, though. But getting back to Christian McCaffrey, and we'll kind of wrap it up here, you can kind of pencil him in my opinion, for 1,000 yards rushing, somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 to 100 yards, 80 to 100 receptions. I mean, heck, wouldn't surprise me if he's in that 900-yard range or so for receiving. Given that he's probably going to be arguably the top player, if not top 3 at the position. If you're in any type of PPR league, I'm going Christian McCaffrey. If it's a non-PPR league, personally, the next safest bet, I'm going with Derrick Henry. Do you see it any different for those people who play in a non-PPR format?
Not really. I mean, I think Derrick Henry is kind of the safest of the top running backs. He's never really had an injury issue before. He's going to get a ton of volume. But he's not going to give you what Christian McCaffrey is going to give you in the passing game. And so if you're accepting that in a standard league, I guess if there's still players out there using standard leagues, there are. Then maybe I would consider a guy like Derrick Henry. Maybe I would consider a guy like Alvin Kamara if I wanted to play it really, really safe. But you're right. When you mentioned Dalvin Cook's injury history is still much more concerning from a risk perspective year to year than what Christian McCaffrey's is. And so if you're worried about, any of these guys, I mean, that's why I created the injury risk rating scale. And that's why it's in our draft guide, because I think it's important that you kind of know how risky is a player given their injury history, which is the best predictor we have for future injury. And I can just tell you, you're going to want to take a look at Christian McCaffrey's injury risk rating in this year's guide, because it's going to open your eyes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, you just touched on it. It's a section in our draft guide. Ethan goes through some of the top names coming off injuries and really does a deep dive on their injury histories, gives them the rating and everything. And people have found that very useful here over the past couple of years. So make sure you check that out. But we want to know what you think. I mean, do you have any reservations on drafting Christian McCaffrey here this year? Leave it down below in the comment section. Myself or the doc will get back to you. We want to interact with you guys. We've done our best to be super interactive as an entire community and channel here this offseason. So if that's something you're looking forward to, you're in the right spot. Hit the subscribe button, check the little bell notification so you know as soon as we upload a video, because we're going to be continuing to drop all this deep diving content all throughout the offseason. So that way, when you're on the clock in your fantasy draft, Ethan, you're not sitting there sweating bullets because you already know exactly which direction you're going to go, right?
That's right.
I mean, that's what it's all about over here. So do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think about Christian McCaffrey down below. And for myself and the doc, we'll see you later.